Hello there. Today we're going to go over a tournament report for the Planetary Qualifier that happened in Colorado Springs yesterday. The winner was an Iden blue deck, and I did pretty well. I came in second with Qi'Ra on a 30 health base. So we'll go over those two deck lists. But first, I want to start with a bit of an overview about the tournament. So I think the thing that was probably most disappointing about the tournament was that there were only 46 players, which felt weird because there was a wait list for this tournament like 30 players long. There were a bunch of people in the greater Denver, Colorado Springs area that I don't even think came because they were so far down on the wait list. And my guess is that a bunch of people registered for this tournament, which didn't require payment in advance, and then decided not to go without calling the store. So I would encourage folks, if you're not going to go to a tournament, definitely reach out to the store and let them know so that they can call people on their wait list to make sure that everybody gets filled. So it was a little disappointing. I think the store had room for 64, and we were a good bit short of that. So because we had so few players, we did 6 rounds with a cut to top 8. And in the top 8, we had 2 Qi'Ra Greens, me and one other player, that got knocked out in the first round. We had 2 Han Blues that got knocked out in the first round, and then a Han Green as well. All 3 young red Han. So he was pretty well represented. Making it to that top 4, we had a Sabine Green and a Ray Red, and then I lost to the Iden Blue in the finals. So it was interesting. There was quite a bit of Boba Fett there, and he didn't really perform very well. So that was interesting to see. All right, let's talk about my matches. So I started off the day pretty hot. I went 3-0 versus a Han Green, a Han Yellow, and a Sabine Green. Then it was time for lunch, and I had the lunch crash. I actually played against the Iden Blue that beat me in the finals in Swiss, and I was able to pull off game 1. Chris, the winner, pulled off game 2, and then we went to time. Now, I'm the type of person that I'm happy to concede if it looks like the other person is going to win the game. But we started round 3 with about 8 minutes left. So even though we were both playing pretty fast, I think we were up to 9 or 10 resources that game. In my mind, there was no clear winner. So we just double lost. Then I lost again versus a Han 2 Blue, one of the ones that was in the top cut, and then was able to swoop back in and beat a Boba Green to make it into the top cut. In the top cut, I played against a Qi'Ra Green mirror match, and we'll talk about that a little bit when I talk about the deck list, but it was a good match against a good friend. We were kind of disappointed to get paired up against each other because we were pretty happy with our matchups into most of the other decks, but that's how it goes. And then was able to beat a Sabine Green 2-1, and then in the rematch against Iden Blue, I got absolutely smoked. Okay, this is my deck. And since set 2 has come out, to be honest with you, I really haven't had a ton of time to play. But Qi'Ra has kind of been the main leader I've been playing since set 2 came out. Played a little bit of Gar Saxon, but almost all my play has been either Qi'Ra Red or Qi'Ra Green. I really, really, really wanted Qi'Ra Red to work. Partially because I think her flip combined with bombing run can lead to really fun things. I just think in the current lineup of decks, bombing run is pretty underwhelming. Maybe that will change with the next set with all the token units. But I've been playing Qi'Ra Red a lot and having some success with it, but it just wasn't winning as much as Qi'Ra Green. So I decided on Qi'Ra Green for this event. And a week ago, I was playing Qi'Ra with Energy Conversion Lab, and still doing well, but I had a match that I felt like I probably could have won, picked off on me by a Cassian Yellow, a guy named John who was a very good player. And I thought, boy, if I had been on the 30 health, I probably would have been able to pull that off because uh, it was some sneaky damage, right? With the cards like Sneak Attack Record, which is great, but I just needed to last a little longer. So I decided to switch to a 30 health. And I really hadn't been playing much of the 30 health. So, originally, I think my list, my 25 health list, was pretty close to Woo's. And you really don't have to change things that much to go to a 30 health. But since I was making the switch, I did jump into the KTOD Discord and looked around for what people were playing. And I don't think I landed on anyone's specific list, but this is pretty close to their Walkling list. I think it's like 5 or 6 cards different. I'll point out a few things that I think differentiate mine from some of the others. The first one is 2 Relentless in the main deck. And then also a Palpatine's Return in the main deck, which can get you another Avenger or another Relentless. With the rise of, Bosk Blue decks and even Iden Blue decks and those heavy control decks, I really, really like having access to Relentless. And Palpatine's Return kind of gives me 3 of those in my main deck. So against Sabine, pretty much all 3 of those cards are dead cards. But I was still able to go, 2-1 and 2-1 against Sabine. So it's still a matchup that I feel pretty comfortable with. And Relentless was invaluable in the mirror match, right? I was playing against my friend Kyle. He only had 1 Relentless in his main deck, no Palpatine's Return. I had an effective 3. And so we looked at each other's deck lists in the top cut, and he said, oh boy, I think you're favored in game 1. And that's how it worked out. To make some room for Relentless, I did cut things like Fell the Dragon. I'm really trying to win the game with my units. If we're going late game, I want to have control of the board. I want to have Avenger and Relentless and a little guy. And that's how a decent amount of games ended up. I do like a lot of little villain units for Vader to pull. The Black Sun Starfighter came in handy a few times to just absorb an attack from the fire spray until I could deal with it later. The 1 takedown's in there mainly for running into things like Chirrut or Sabine. I think I played it quite a bit, and folks knew it was a one of, and every time I played it, they were kind of disappointed. I like making opening 1 in the main, 1 in the sideboard for that Boba Fett matchup, or if you're running against like a Tarkin TIE Phantom deck. I think that's pretty good. I occasionally found myself siding in more of those. And then the Hylabon Enforcers, I actually found that I really didn't play them most of the day. In Sabine, they were useful, and against basically every other matchup, I sided them out. And so I'm noodling on maybe I should just replace those 2 with 2 top targets to start, which is, close to as good in Sabine. Probably not quite as good. But in really all my other matchups, especially in the long games, you don't want to be giving your opponents more cards. So my traditional start was Pershing if I had it, Inferno 4 or a Pike Sentinel if I didn't, and then trying to ramp up. And it's a fairly standard Qi'Ra Green after that. Okay, let's talk about the winner. This deck was built and piloted by Chris, and he did really, really well with it. I do want to give a disclaimer if you're thinking about trying this deck out, which is that I would practice. So, Chris has been playing this deck for a while, and he went to time at least 3 times, maybe more. So in Swiss, he went to time once before he got to me, and I think that they randomly determined a winner of that game. He went to time against me, uh, and we just double lost. And then again in the top cut, where they actually had 75-minute rounds, he went to time against the Ray Red in the semifinals and won based off of remaining health left on base. So it is a cool deck. It's one that if you want to play, you want to know your game plan so you can be, uh, playing pretty fast. So let's check it out. There are 4 out of aspect cards in the main deck, 2 Bazines and 2 Crate Dragons. And I think those put in a lot of work. So, Bazine, you're smuggling out for 7 or for 6, most likely. And he was very happy to do that, right? Because kind of late in the game, you, especially against me, right? Like we're both trying to get to late in the game. It's just about who has the most answers. And so he can look at my hand, see how many answers I have, right? See how many Relentlesses or Super Laser Blasts or Avengers, and get rid of one. And a lot of times you don't even necessarily want to be going first because whatever you play gets answered by a Power of the Dark Side or a Vanquish or something like that. So Bazine is a great thing to do first. Take away one of your opponent's answers and basically kick the game down the line. Crate Dragon was also pretty good, right? So once you've gotten rid of your opponent's answers, Crate Dragon makes it really, really difficult to play things like Avenger or Super Laser Blast, right? If you've gotten rid of all their Power of the Dark Sides, it hurts to play those other cards. And that happened to me once, maybe twice. I think I took 9 damage because I played an Avenger to kill the Crate Dragon. So he hit my base for 9. So I think that worked really, really well for him. Outside of those 2 cards, the game plan, I mean, you can see that there's only 1 2-cost unit, right? So you really, really, really want to find Pershing early to set up Childson to be a 6/6 and stall the game. There are only 3 space units. It's just Avenger, right? And so you're using Entrenched and Power of the Dark Side, take down Vanquish and Rival's Fall to help control space lane until you can Super Laser Blast or Snoke everything away. There is tons of card advantage in this. So if you don't get Pershing, you're probably just skipping turn 1, playing Power of the Dark Side turn 2, and that also helps make your Childson a little bigger. But you also have quite a bit of smuggle here, right? So mid-game, maybe you're smuggling Lom Pike on 5, maybe on 6, maybe beyond, you're smuggling Bazine. And each time you smuggle, you get a little card advantage. And then he's got even more in the sideboard with Tobias and Sugi, right? So at the end of our games, we were both sitting on like 14, 16 resources, something like that. And I would have a hand of maybe 5 or 6 cards, and he would have a hand of 8 or 9. And, 2 of my cards were probably silly cards like Pike Sentinel or Super Laser Technician. And pretty much all of his cards were answers for my cards. So, congrats to Chris. It was a pretty cool deck. It's one that I think I'm probably gonna try my hand at some point. But like I said, if you're wanting to take this one to a tournament, I would practice with it because you don't usually want to be that guy that's going to time a ton. So that's it. I hope this was helpful and you enjoyed looking at the decks. Until next time, take care.